Hello, and thank you for joining us today, and welcome to the November IBM Silverpop Engage product presentation and demonstration. Over the next 30 to 45 minutes, we're going to show you how the Silverpop Engage marketing platform can provide dramatic improvements to the return on relationship with your customers. We don't have time today to cover the full breadth and depth of our platform, and we will instead be focusing on some key components. We do hope, however, that you will see the value that we can bring to your company, regardless of the industry that you're in, so that we can tailor a product demonstration specific to your organizational goals. To those that would like to see a recording of this or to share a recording out with those that are not able to make it, we will be sending a recording of this presentation in the next day or so. And if you do have questions as we're going through this, jot them down in the Q&A box, and we're not going to handle them at the end of this presentation, but I will follow up with you directly at the end via email at the end of the presentation. Just so you have a face with a voice, my name is Chris Murphy and I'm in product marketing here at Silverpop, and I'm joined on today's call by Sean Fennelly, who's a sales engineer who's really going to help to demonstrate the value of the Silverpop marketing platform. So let's begin. Before we go into the demonstration, let's just begin and take stock of where we are as marketers. We're really living and working in a world that refuses to stand still. And as a result, our marketing practices are constantly having to adapt. Some of these forces driving marketers to adapt come directly as a result of the changing nature of our customers' behaviors. Our customers are engaging with the brands that they love and trust across more channels. And as marketers, we really need to be where they are. We need to cater and communicate effectively with the varying devices that they prefer to communicate on and interact with. And we really need to work on their schedule, not ours. Regardless of when or how they interact with us, they're demanding an experience that is consistent, whether that's a digital experience or whether that's in the real world, in stores, at events. Our customers have access to more information and have more influence over our brand's reputation than at any point in history. And finally, as marketers, we have to adapt our approaches to fit with shifting marketing and technological paradigms, anything from privacy and security consideration to new paradigms that are introduced, such as the grid view in Gmail. Most marketers understand that, and they want to be able to provide these types of experiences for their customers. But when we work with our customers and prospects, some common internal challenges often prevent them from getting where they want to be. There's siloed data, often presenting a fragmented picture of our customers. Oftentimes, they don't have control over the data that they want, and there's often an inability to provide relevant content at the individual level. Sometimes it's a challenge to message customers on the right channel, or an inability to execute in real time, or maybe not in real time, but at the right time. And there's often a lack of clear insight into how individual customers would prefer to interact with your brands. So what this really comes down to is that we really need to begin to listen to our customers, to have the ability to listen to them, and to begin to understand them as individuals. We need to discover, understand, and leverage important information about them, be that information explicitly shared through things like preferences or surveys, or inferred from their behaviors and how they interact with us. And it's about recognizing and acting on this information to create positive customer experiences that build engagement, a preference to do business with your company specifically, and ultimately long-term loyalty. And this is really a win-win for marketers. The more engaged customer experiences that we can offer based upon relevant information really results in better revenue, loyalty, and long-term success for your company. So how can Silverpop help? Before we kind of go into the nitty-gritty of the product demonstration, I want to just talk about the technology pillars that we've built our platform on. And one of the core pillars of our platform, it consists of a marketing database built specifically for marketers. And what that means is that it can be owned and managed, edited, however the marketer sees fit. We all work in marketing environments in which different systems house different pieces of data on our customers. They're like different pieces of a puzzle, but sometimes it's hard to bring them together. The Silverpop marketing database really allows marketers the ability to gain access to this data, to be able to store it, to capture it, and to leverage it. Most importantly is the ability to be able to use the data that you have across all of those different technologies, and to use that data and behavior to have more context-rich and timely communications with your customers and prospects. Our database truly sits at the heart of your marketing efforts, allowing you to create a marketing technology suite that fits your organization's specific needs. Our platform helps you to understand how those behaviors are affecting outcomes, such as driving revenue, retention, and loyalty. And it's important to understand that this can be done at both the individual level, but also at the group level. And be able to use that data, feed that back into the platform with closed-loop reporting so that you can understand which activities are working, what they mean, and how they are impacting the customer lifecycle. Behaviors such as opens, clicks, mentions, tweets, purchases, visits, reviews, these are all behaviors that we want to capture and we want to understand how they're working. And they're captured across multiple devices and often reside in different, disparate technologies. The Universal Behaviors Framework, it kind of goes above and beyond what traditional marketing systems capture when it thinks about that it can only capture those things that are native to that platform. Our Universal Behaviors technology allows you to understand a real-time stream of behaviors and events from any imaginable source, be that online or offline. It organizes them into a single view for each customer. And it does this in real time so that you have the ability to be able to respond as soon as that behavior happens, if it makes sense. And as you begin to capture these behaviors as they happen, it is vitally important, it's imperative that we are able to link them back and that they represent a single person, not view them in isolation. There's no good having all your social data in one place or your email behavior in another place. They need to be connected to a single contact record. Silverpop's database allows you to store every identity, social handle, address, and ID for each of your individual customers and helps you consolidate all of that information into a single contact record, ensuring that everything you understand about a customer lives in a single place. But to be truly effective, you need an interaction engine that can act on all of this behavioral data, and ACT is a really important information. Our tool is meant for the analysis, the capture, the storing of the data, but the most vital point is the ability to act on that data, to be able to leverage that data so that you can have those more personalized, relevant communications with your customers. Our interaction engine allows you to leverage this massive amounts of collected data to drive those personalized interactions at scale, but it can be configured so that it can fit your specific business rules. It's not pre-configured templates that you have no control over. It can fit your specific, unique circumstances. And your customers are interacting with you through a variety of channels, and they really won't pay attention unless you are there with them. Our database allows you to incorporate a lot of those multi-channel activity so that you can have a complete portrait of your customers and prospects. But it also allows you to deliver those responses, those communications via the preferred channel that your customer would prefer to interact with your brand through. Silverpop can really help you realize your marketing vision. We help you to understand what your customers are doing and to be able to use this information to create a more personalized experience. We can help you to connect systems that build out a contextual view of the customer. And we help you to better engage with your customer, no matter where they are in the buying cycle, and have an infrastructure that really allows you to scale, to provide efficiency and flexibility so that you can respond as your customers and the wider landscape changes. So before I turn it over to Sean to demonstrate the platform, we're going to begin on the website of a fictional chocolate retailer and manufacturer called Mere Truffle. We understand that the website is really a crucial part of your company's marketing plan, and this is going to help us frame some of the demonstration areas that Sean is going to highlight inside of the platform. It's a bitterly cold day here in Atlanta, so I'm hoping that Sean has the ability to move his fingers and navigate around, but I'm going to transfer this over to Sean.
Yes.
And you can take it away.
Thank you, sir. They do give us heat here at Silverpop. That's a good thing. So good. I will pick up the ball, and in just a second you will see me share my application, which will be, as Chris said, the Mere Truffle example that we like to use. Now, before I do that, let me just say real quick, this is a public demo. There's a lot of you coming from different backgrounds, different verticals. The whole goal of this demo is that you would see enough to kind of whet the appetite and that you would eventually call us to do a more custom demo. As a sales engineer, to be honest with you, that's what gets me excited. is seeing how your particular use case and your business can fit in the context of this platform and how it can bring value to what you're currently doing in marketing. But that being said, since it's a public demo, we're going to give you a public example or just a generic example, and we have made up or created what we call a mere truffle. That's kind of timely. We're coming up on the holidays, so most of you hopefully are interested in chocolate or something coming into the Thanksgiving holiday. If you look on a mere truffle, you'll see that there's a little square there that's asking a singular question, and it just wants to know, what is your favorite chocolate? And, you know, for single identity, Chris referred to single identity, most of that does start at the website. So one of the things I want to do is I want to play the role of that person who is willing to trade a little bit of my identity in terms of my preferences to get back something of value. So I'm going to indicate, which is true, by the way, I'm very interested in dark chocolate. I'm going to click on Submit, and that's going to bring me to basically a response within that iframed form. And by the way, that is a form that's built inside of Engage. So you could take your iframe forms, or excuse me, our forms, and iframe those inside of your web pages. I'm going to get my recipes, and it's actually going to bring me to a place where I can go ahead and fill out my first name, last name, and email. So I'm going to do that real quick because, again, if I'm interested, if I'm engaged, then I'm going to pull in my information, and I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to submit that information and click on Download so I can get those recipes. Now, after I do that, I'm actually going to go back to the home page. And you notice that when I go back to the home page, there's a new question that's showing up. And this is not just an iframed form, but it is a progressive form. Especially those of you that may be on the call who are coming from, let's say, education, where you're trying to appeal to certain students, maybe alumni, maybe some of you coming from finance, anywhere where there's a B2B component, and there's typically a long cycle involved in acquiring leads, making sure that they're engaged, getting them to give you little pieces of information at a time. This is really beneficial in that sense. So I can begin to build my profile even though I've already been collected as a contact in the database. So just to want to mention that, progressive profiling, if that's something that you think you could leverage. Now, since I've gone ahead and submitted my information, I'm going to jump over to the area that I would be entered into as a new contact in the database. This is a very popular feature across all of our customers, business to consumer, business to business. We have a lot of business to consumer retailers that like to do cart abandonment. We've got a lot of B2B customers that like to do events and webinars. But this, as you can tell, because of the workflow involved, this all underscores a time component. And so I'm actually coming into a very basic example of a welcome campaign that was initiated on the site when I filled out that form. And you see here I've got an initial start track. I'm hovering over the first email, and that's the first email that I'm going to get. And I'm actually going to drill down into that email because we're kind of transitioning now. We talked about lead collection and that single identity and everything that we started to do at the site to get people engaged. Now what we want to talk about is automation. There's not a marketer that I know that isn't under the gun, that isn't wearing multiple hats, and really needs to be able to automate around some recurring processes. And that's what this is intended to do. So in this first email, I'm going to get this immediately because I have the ability as a marketer to make sure that, we don't wait or waste any time to go ahead and send out this first email. If we wanted to, I could go in and configure a step interval, but I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to send that first email. It's kind of like an autoresponder, if you will. And I'm actually going to drill down into that because I want you to take a look at what comprises this email. This is very important. Some of you may be coming from kind of a batch and blast mentality, and that's perfectly fine. Some of you may be considering moving into automation and graduating from some second-tier platforms. That's what we're interested in, and we would like to talk with you further. And when we say second tier, what we're looking at is making sure that that email is not only automated, but that email is also personalized. So you see I'm drilling down into an email that I'm going to receive, and I can actually receive that email based on the indications that I made on the site. So I gave them my first name, and I also indicated what my favorite chocolate was. And before this email is even activated, you as the marketer can go in and you can put in anybody's email address. You may even put yourself in there as a test, and you can run that test and see if the first name personalization pops up, if the indicated preference pops up. You saw that I was interested in dark chocolate, and I have a little dark chocolate image that shows up here. I'm not a designer, I'm a sales engineer, but you get the idea that this is something that you can do on the fly, and you can even test before you make these programs active. And if you don't have somebody to refer to or an email that you can put in, if you notice, I'm going to scroll past or actually just go down beyond spam check, beyond warnings and errors. as a sales engineer, I do want to pause there for a second because that's an important thing too. If you are currently using an email service provider and you have very poor deliverability, deliverability is one of our key features. It has been for 15 years. We have a dedicated deliverability team. It really doesn't make sense to do personalization and dynamic content and make your email, all of these things can't even make it to the inbox. And there was an intentional pregnant pause for that. It's got to go to the inbox, and we have a team that does nothing but make sure that that happens, along with giving you a platform that allows you some flexibility in how this email will display to that recipient. So if I was, somebody that was interested more in white chocolate versus dark chocolate, I can still see how this email is going to show up to a certain degree. Some of the personalization tokens may populate there, because it doesn't have all the specific information on me, but I can see what white chocolate will look like. I can see what milk chocolate will look like. So far what we've talked about, starting at the Amir Truffle site, we talked about, lead collection or acquisition, talked about starting with that single identity and acquiring those preferences. We've talked a little bit about automation, and now we're covering personalization. And notice, I think it's important for you to take note that I haven't really gone outside or gone into any other area of the platform to be able to do this. So you're already doing a lot with the content that you're creating in this single view.
And one thing I'll just add as well, Sean touched upon personalization, and there's a couple of, it's more kind of like along a continuum personalization. There's a very simple, I'm going to populate somebody's first name, and that's, I think as an industry, we've really moved past that. We're all consumers. We're marketers, but we're also consumers as well, and we receive information, and having, dear Sean or dear Chris in an email really isn't necessarily personalizing that email experience. It's personalizing it based upon the context of what they've done, how they've interacted with your brand, the multiple touch points that they have, potentially what they might be interested in. So we touched upon kind of like how some of the content can be included in there using the dynamic content. The rules that you can use in dynamic content can be configured to whatever business rules you have. So, for example, you might be a financial services company that has different legal legislation for every state that you work in. That can easily be added and automated inside of your dynamic content areas. And these rules can be reused over and over again they don't have to be created each time. They can be reused across multiple campaigns.
Yes, and Chris teed that up very nicely, because when I come back into the program, that rules engine that he's referring to, that's what I'm going to highlight here in this next item, this decision point. And so this is where it really gets fun, right? Because you could do that autoresponder email, and it can be personalized, and you can have dynamic content. But let's just go back in the context of Amir Truffle. I gave my information, and maybe what they really wanted to have, or what Amir Truffle, I should say, really wants to have happen, is they want people to join their club, right? And so with this example, if I click on a link that brings me to this page, or I fill out this form, that can be some very specific behavioral criteria that I can actually reference in this decision diamond. And so this decision diamond came over here from the left-hand side under Actions. We've really simplified the layout of this program. So I can drag and drop this decision point, anywhere I want to. In fact, I'm going to leave it here on this second track. But the one that I'm going to focus on is asking the question, did they click on the club link in the email, the first email that I was given? So if I go in and I configure that, you see that there's an area to keep on the yes path. There's an area in which I can configure a set of rules. So I want you to look at this screen that pops up, this rule builder, and I want you to look across the top where it says add criteria, and you see that I have profile. If I go across, I have behavior. I have an integration in my demo account with Salesforce, so any of you that have a CRM or work with multiple CRMs, Silverpop does integrate with multiple CRMs. That's why we want to do a custom demo. Let us know what your CRM is, and we can talk further. The relational table data. We did a very basic example of showing you how, dark chocolate can show up in the body of that email. But relational table, that allows us to associate tables with the database. So as Chris mentioned, we could show different types of products, right? We can get very nuanced in what we display in the body of an email.
And relational tables, it's kind of like, it's one of those things. It just represents kind of like the one-to-many relationship. We've all bought things from Amazon, and my wife specifically has probably bought 100 things from Amazon. If we want to keep that purchase history, we can have that one-to-many relationship. So that's how we can understand and use what she's purchased in the past to drive communications. We work with a lot of universities, for example, that have current students, prospective students, fundraisers, alumni. They're working with multiple different sets of stakeholders. But let's take the students, for example. They're probably enrolled in multiple different courses during a particular semester. And if you want to be able to use that data in the personalization, it's a great kind of like use case for those relational tables, that one-to-many relationship.
Yeah, and that's the kind of out-of-the-box thinking that we want you to kind of be considering as we're doing this demonstration. Very basic example, but the thing that we want you to take away from what Chris just said and what I'm explaining is the level of scale. What's underscoring all of this is a very scalable database that can acquire all of these attributes over time. And so you really have a good understanding of who your contact is. And then you can pivot off of it. And not only can you pivot off of it or you can act on it, but you can do it within a very easy-to-use interface. And so you see I already have a couple of criteria that I set up. Has clicked on the link, and that is that specific example where we clicked on the link in an email. We could have also done they've been sent the email, or maybe they opened up the email, but we did click link in email, and I selected the Amir truffle, and that with DC just means dynamic content. That's for me because I have a lot of different examples. And we can select a link or multiple links. We have a lot of retail clients that will actually display different types of products, and they will display a link per product so they can actually track how popular certain products were at the link level. And we can also do that within a particular time frame. So now what we're talking about, we talked about lead collection, we talked about automation, we talked about personalization. Now we're talking about very specific segmentation, how we maneuver and how we make this data all actionable in an easy-to-use interface. That is the what I would call the behavior-based example. You also see that if I click on this area right here, has viewed web page, we are a platform that can act on known contacts, but we also move out into your website. So if you want to take some proprietary code that we provide you, some JavaScript, you can see if somebody has viewed a particular page, gone to a site, maybe downloaded a case study or a white paper, or even triggered what we call a custom tracking event, which is essentially the catch-all. Somebody clicks on the Buy Now button, and you want to put script behind that, and that's something that you want to be able to track. That's what a lot of our retailers, just to give you an example, that's what they use to do cart abandonment, is track that particular Buy Now button, or however they display it. There's additional behaviors here that I really don't have the time to go into and would love to go into in a custom demo. Universal behaviors being one of those. If you could imagine having another third-party platform in-house and being able to take those behaviors from a platform that you already have and bringing those into the system in a way that you can segment off of, that is the level of scale that we're talking about with Silverpop. Now, the last thing I want to mention about the program here is this second track. I just created a scenario where maybe I didn't open up that first email, and so I got rerouted because I didn't open up the first email, or in this case, I didn't click on the club link, and I got rerouted to this track, and I called it a no-open multi-channel track. This was simply to demonstrate that we are not limited to email. We actually can expand into direct mail, which is something that I brought in, and I'll actually bring it again so you can see me drop it in there. We can do direct mail. We can do a telesales or a call center option. Keep in mind that, Silverpop's clients, which exceed 2,000, those clients have basically dictated to us what they want to be able to see. As multi-channel has evolved, omni-channel has evolved, they wanted to be able to create these workflows around those options. And so that's why you see these multi-channel options. So you can basically collect everyone at a particular step within the program, and I can configure this to basically produce a CSV file of all those individuals that, let's say, they don't open up their email. We could also do that with telesales, maybe have somebody in a call center reach out to them. That's what that's for. The point I want to make here, and then I'll close with this, is that this is completely automated. Once you lay this out on a whiteboard or wherever you work on this and collaborate with your team, you can lay this out in our platform and not have to worry about any manual intervention. So we talked about segmentation, personalization, automation, multi-channel options. The last thing I want to mention here is prioritization. So, one of the big challenges, again, being marketers and wanting to, and maybe sometimes working in conjunction with sales, we need to be able to prioritize those contacts, those leads, those buyers that are most involved. And so maybe what we want to do is we want to take a mere truffle. We want to start to score on some of the responses that we're getting. So in this example, I am actually referring to a field in the database. It's nothing that you haven't seen already. Amir Truffle, that's what that AMT, that's the abbreviation, Amir Truffle favorite chocolate. And what I am showing here are the different point levels. So maybe what I want to do is I want to give somebody 15 points if they've indicated an interest in dark versus maybe 20 points interested in white or milk chocolate. And I can do that with any attribute in the database. So not only are we talking about a scalable database that allows you to really develop a persona and an understanding of your contact, but also being able to score and weigh and value what their interests are. You can do that in demographic score, which are the attributes in the database. And if I continue to scroll down here, perhaps more importantly, you can do it with their behaviors. So, just kind of piggybacking off of Chris's education, higher education example, from fall semester to spring semester, or if you're on a quarter system, there's a lot that can happen in terms of behaviors and how students can kind of maneuver around. Same thing with finances, right? There's kind of peak periods that we work with. Nonprofits are probably worth mentioning right now. We've got a lot of nonprofits that are doing a high volume content right now simply because they're trying to acquire, they're doing their fundraising, right, towards the end of the year. They're trying to acquire contributions and donations. And so they can be able to score and see who are the heaviest contributors, so to speak, based on their activity. And again, what you're able to segment on, it's no different here. What you're able to segment on, you can score on. Email behavior, the programs, which is what I just came from, the automated campaigns, web form behavior, and website behavior.
And we've got a lot of customers, I know you mentioned like engagement, we've got a lot of customers using this to get a deeper understanding about how their customer portfolio inside their database is changing. Are some of them becoming less engaged? Are there signs that they need to work out to? Do they need to re-engage with them potentially via a different channel? So it's a great way with which you can understand how your customers are performing against each other, potentially on any scale, propensity to buy, engagement, donor levels, whatever the case may be.
Absolutely. And, if you get that one person who submits a form like I just did, I did Amir Truffle, and then for whatever reason, I decide not to buy anything and I don't come back for another 30 days. You have a recency and a frequency option. We can actually depreciate scores if people don't come back, and then we can roll all that up into a dynamically changing ranking. So we have a way to define all of these different numbers, what's a 45 versus 105 or something along those lines. And as I mentioned earlier, one of the great things, and I'm going to expand on it just a little bit, this is it's worth a custom demo and a custom conversation, is the integration capability. With this level of scale, again, if you already have a particular tech landscape, or I should say tech stack inside of your company, then chances are you've got a database of record and something you potentially would want to integrate your marketing platform with. And that is an area in which we are very, very strong. So with that being said, I am actually going to stop sharing. And, let me go ahead. Well, hold on. Let me show you one more thing. So Chris, he caught me. Let me show you this. Now, this is good. You don't want to show too much. Again, we just want to whet the appetite. But he did want me to point out, again, a good visual, and that is email insights. Because it applies, right? Responsive design, seeing how your email is going to display across multiple devices, iPad, iPhone, Android, and that is something that we like to point out. And I'm actually glad that Chris caught me on this because you see, I'm very interested in simplicity, and so that's probably why I cut my demo short. But Chris had me come back in, and you see at the top of the screen we've got preview, which is what we're in right now, right? We are previewing what this email will look like across all of these different devices. So if I happen to click on the iPad mini, boom, I've got the iPad mini, and I can scroll through these. So send out a test email, and see what's going to look like across all the devices, especially if you're doing any type of responsive. The other thing I want to mention on the other side is analytics, and analytics is really cool because this is where we can make another attribute be based on what people are typically opening up, or what I should say, what device they are using at the particular time. So this email insights tool basically drives a value back to the database, the same database that contains what my favorite chocolate is, what my behaviors are, everything that we've talked about, drives a value back and indicates what my preferred device is. And if I happen to drop, and I love to give this example, if I drop my iPhone in the toilet and I have to start checking my email, on the iPad, then it's going to indicate that the iPad has now become my preferred device. So that is dynamically changing. Very easy to use interface, and just something that, kind of accents, as we have a lot of kind of peripheral offerings in addition to our main platform, it accents what we were able to do here at Silverpop.
And I think it underscores the fact that what we're trying to do, the preview feature is excellent as a creative tool to make sure that you are giving that nice experience. But the ability to understand, get data back from the analytics, but be able to use that data. I mean, if you have an understanding about how your customers, what devices your customers prefer to interact with you on, you can use that data. If you are building an app, for example, that's only available on the iOS, and you have a customized segmentation list based upon all those people that prefer to interact with your device on that platform, then you can send a targeted message that way. So it's not just giving you the ability to see how things are going to look and hoping for the best. We're using the data that they're actually doing to bring it back inside the platform so that you can use it. Much like send time optimization, our other feature, which actually looks at the preferred open time of the emails that are being sent, so that you can understand. You don't have to do anything. You can just basically check this box. And what it will do, it will analyze what that person has been doing so that you can then kind of like use that information to send the email at the exact time that they have shown a propensity to open up that email.
That's right. That's a great point. That dynamically changes as well. And, you know, it kind of falls under the entire umbrella of behavior, right? If you're interested in segmentation, automation, you want to be able to trigger the content, and you want it to be unique to that individual, not just about their profile, which you've already acquired, but also their behaviors. That is where Silverpop really shines. All right. Now, can I pass this back?
Yes, you can. Yes, you can. Thank you, Sean. Thank you. All right, perfect. So we're going to pick back up and just talk a little bit about why Silverpop. So Silverpop is an IBM company, and we are a cloud-based digital marketing provider that provides email marketing and lead management solutions. We support thousands of businesses of all sizes across a variety of industries, some of which you can see up on the screen at the moment. Some of our customers are focused on business-to-consumer, click-to-buy sales, while others support more complex, multi-interaction sales cycle. And this really brings you the best of both worlds, helping to understand and incorporate best practices and innovation from both sides of marketing. And just to reiterate, if we haven't made the point strongly enough kind of through the process of this demonstration, some of our key differentiators, and we're just going to reiterate them here. Our platform really helps our customers get closer to their customers' needs and wants by giving marketers the ability to collect and gain insight on their customers from a variety of sources. We understand that you're working not with single customers or customers that are in the 10 or 20. You're working with thousands and millions of customers. And that tailored concierge experience where you can tailor every single communication that you send is not achievable without a strong automation interaction engine. And our automation really allows you to use that collected data and observe behaviors to personalize that experience. And we understand that your customers are engaging with you via multiple channels. And we give you the ability to not only incorporate and understand how they're interacting with your brand across those channels, but give you the options to communicate back with them in their preferred channels. And we support clients with a variety of different business needs with a feature set that can really grow as your needs change, whether you're coming whether this is your first foray into digital marketing or whether you are a digital marketing guru and you've been in the industry for 10, 20 years, our feature set can really expand to your specific business needs. And we have a full breadth of services and support plans really designed to get you where you need to be, regardless of where you're starting from. The plans are flexible in nature, and they really need to be, because not only do companies have to adapt to internal organizational needs, but we also have to adapt, like I said at the start, to changing customer behaviors and needs as well. So the service and support plans that we do have are very flexible and fluid so that you can pick and tailor a plan that's going to suit your needs the best. And we understand that as you're considering a digital marketing platform to be truly effective, it cannot work in isolation. It has to play nicely with all of the other marketing technologies that you're already using and utilize on a day-to-day basis. That's why we've invested in having a very robust partner ecosystem, along with integration technologies that are able to connect to your in-house systems as well as your custom systems or whatever other system that you're utilizing on a day-to-day basis. IBM Silverpop Engage is part of the Experience One family of products. Experience One customer engagement solutions help marketers attract and maximize the lifetime value of customers by delivering enriching engagements. Silverpop Engage brings digital marketing capabilities to Experience One, including email marketing and lead management, helping to convert digital prospects to loyal customers through more relevant one-to-one interactions. So what is next? We're going to put a quick polling question down in the Q&A box just to give those that are interested in receiving a more customized, personalized demonstration, maybe from yours truly across the table from me, Sean Fennelly, or maybe from one of our other Engage experts. But that polling question will come up, and you can just very simply indicate whether or not you're interested in receiving one, and we can follow up with you after the call. What we do hope is that this demonstration has illustrated how the transition to a behavior-first approach can help you drive real-time, highly relevant communications through the appropriate channel. Collecting data can help you build a digital identity for your customers and prospects, and incorporating automation allows you to interact with them more effectively in a highly personalized way. And we hope that we've shown that we understand your specific business challenges and have the tools and experience to help you along the path to digital success. There are other ways. If you're not seeing that poll, which I think I actually see up on the screen at the moment, if you're interested in receiving a more personalized demo, just answer yes, and we will respond to you. If you're not, then that's fine. You can answer no, or you can just leave it as is. But we really do hope that we can help customize a demonstration of the platform. Because what we've done here is really scratching the surface. We've shown kind of like some of the key components to it, but it's very generalized. And I think we all work, I mean, I'm a marketer myself, we all work in very unique circumstances. We have different stakeholders that we're trying to communicate with. As I said, customers, prospects, alumni, researchers, business service providers, partners. And we all need to kind of interact with them in a different way. So if you are interested, we can definitely, we think we can be of assistance to you. So you can either get in contact with me personally. My email address is up on the screen. We've got the contact sales at silverpop.com, or you can simply answer the polling question, and we can follow up with you there. We did get a couple of questions. I got told that I should not be complaining about the weather here in Atlanta when it's 18 degrees in Minneapolis, which is fair enough. But any other questions that we do receive, I will personally follow up with you. This is just not necessarily the forum to answer those. So I'll personally follow up with you after the webinar, probably tomorrow. You will be receiving a recording of this demonstration, and one will be made available on our website. We're at 20 to 3 our time, Eastern time. So hopefully we've given you a little bit of time back in your day. And I hope you have a great rest of the day, week ahead, and holiday period as well. Thank you, Sean, for joining today.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody on the call.